Loving Earth, a meditation on the lockdown. Take a moment to settle yourself. Find a comfortable position and set distractions aside as best you can as you begin to focus on your breathing. Notice your surroundings and be aware of them, but allow them to shift to the side of your mind. This is an opportunity to take time to reflect on your relationship with the world around you and your experiences during and since the first COVID lockdown. So often our lives are about rush, busyness, and the latest news. This is an opportunity to slow down, to pause, to listen. Perhaps it's a time to think back to when you first realised there was something not quite right in your relationship with the earth. That business as usual couldn't really go on as it was. What made that happen? Was it reading something? A book, an article? Was it watching a documentary? Or perhaps talking to somebody? Or notice something for yourself? Take some time now to just think back. Maybe there's been more than one such moment. "2020 was quite a year. The world was transformed around us. Let's look at why the last year in particular has changed so much. It was a year in which suddenly we were swept up in a global pandemic, which changed all our lives. Many people lost loved ones. Some people struggled with enormous and impossible tasks. Some lost their jobs, their security. People were left isolated as they tried to stay safe. It has affected many people's well-being and our resilience. We've been reminded how much we depend on one another. It was also a year in which we heard stories of people getting to know and love their local area better, or to embrace the quiet and the sounds of wildlife as noise pollution appeared to drop. Did we really need to lose life and livelihoods on such a scale for this to happen? Many climate records were broken in 2022. Following the sixth hottest years in human history, all-time temperature peaks were again registered from the Antarctic to the Arctic. Record fires raged in Australia, Siberia, California. The Atlantic hurricane season generated record numbers of storms. Floods and droughts were widespread, and the ice in the Arctic Laptev Sea started forming later than ever. Meanwhile, the USA, under President Trump, withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement. What's your own experience of this period been? How did COVID affect your relationship with your local environment and with the rest of the world? What signs have you noticed of environmental breakdown? Signs such as loss of insect or bird life, changing landscapes or seasons, more pollution. or less. Every year, climate action becomes more urgent, and we're now at a tipping point. But if we can really acknowledge what's happening and how it will affect our homes, our loved ones, and our community, this can empower us to seek change. 2020 has shown us that we can live differently. We can slow down, and we can change our work culture and habits very fast when we want to. Another way is possible. The pandemic has reminded us how much we value the connections with one another and with nature, and of the importance of kindness. It's also shown us how important it is to act in the interest of the common good. No man is an island. What positive changes have you noticed or experienced during lockdown? The choices we make now as we emerge from the pandemic will have a defining impact on what happens in the next few years and beyond. So the Loving Earth Lockdown Legacy Project offers you 3 questions to consider. We hope they will help you discern what you want to remember from the pandemic and what you might do to bring about a healthier future for ourselves, our community, and the earth. What will your legacy be? How has your experience of the pandemic affected your relationship with the environment? How has your experience of the pandemic affected your relationship with the environment? What will you remember? Can you imagine what Merton or your own local area might be like in 20 or 30 years' time if climate breakdown continues as predicted? What changes would you like to see that could enable us to live in better relationship with the earth? What changes would you like to see, especially locally, that could enable us to live in better relationship with the earth? Can you envision one big change that would really make a difference? What could you do, or are you doing, to help bring about these changes, whether on your own or with others? What's the most radical thing you could do? And what's the tiniest thing? What could you do to help bring about big change? Whether a radical thing and a tiny thing. What could your next step be? What could you do in the next week? As we come to an end of this guided meditation, you may find it helpful to make some notes or a rough sketch of what's come to the fore for you. Perhaps you'd like to take 5, 10, 15 minutes to do that. If you're planning to make a textile panel for our Lockdown Legacy project, your ideas may continue to evolve as you explore materials that you've got to hand and as you start to design and make your panel. Otherwise, you might wish to sit with the questions for a bit longer or to explore them further as you take a walk, play with images, do some journaling. Let the questions percolate and see what surfaces. And if you're doing this meditation on your own, do try and find someone to share some of your reflections with in the next few days.